podcast focused on trends shaping the future of manufacturing. I'm Alexandria Bjork, your host, here with A.W. Schultz, two thought leaders with a passion for people and manufacturing. Today and every episode, we are diving deep into the advancements, sustainable practices, and dynamic changes transforming how we produce everything.
And now welcome Alexandria Bjork and A.W. Schultz.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Factory of the Future. I'm A.W. Schultz, along with Drew Allen, and a very special guest today. I'm doing it solo today. Alexandra is occupied, but Drew is going to be filling in and making sure that I'm kept in line. Drew Allen, he's the CEO of Grace Technologies in Brazil, is a dramatic leader within the passion for innovation, global business, and basically a disruptor in technologies and automation sector. With a proven track record of driving year-over-year growth, and a host of his own podcast, though he tells me he hasn't podcasted a little bit, but he's still circling around into it. And he's also an advisor for startups. Drew, did I miss anything? I'm sorry.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, we love doing stuff in the startup space, and at Grace, we're always trying to do new and innovative stuff. So I'm really excited to share some time with you today, and I'm sure that hopefully the listenership will be able to get some value out of what we're talking about and put on their future leading hats today.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking before the show got started about energy, and you used some different terms that I'm not familiar with. And I think you need to unpack that a little bit and tell our viewers what we're talking about when we talk about energy, because this is new to me, and I try to circle around the industries on it, and you're bringing something new to me.
Yeah. So let me start with the reindustrialization of America. I think the reindustrialization of America is truly happening. The amount of greenfield investment happening across the U.S., not just in the data center and chip manufacturing areas, the semiconductor space, but additionally across all industrial verticals, is absolutely dramatic and breathtaking. First, I believe in an America kind of centered future. I don't think that we can further rely on Chinese manufacturing to kind of grow our consumer spending base. And so we need to reindustrialize in America, but there are some key inputs into industrial facilities, data centers, and semiconductors. And one of those is electrons. And so you might know it as, power generation capacity or electricity. But at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is moving electrons. And we do not have enough electrons being produced in the U.S. And China is doing a fantastic job of producing and green lighting new power generation facilities. For us, it's taking about 10 years for a FERC permit. FERC is the Federal Electrical Regulatory Commission. So they get to determine who can hook up to the national grid. And it's pretty difficult to be able to build a power generation site unless you're in Texas, like you are. Texas is famously not hooked up to FERC. So when you guys had the hurricanes a few years back, you guys lost power for a ton of time, and that or was it the ice storm? I can't. One of them. Ice storm. The ice storm. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sure it's both, but anyways, FERC regulates how utilities behave and operate. And by the way, when it comes to regulation in the electrical generation space, we need it. If you kind of start screwing with the quality of power getting generated in the U.S., everyone's microwaves don't work. Our industrial factories won't work the way that they need to. So we do need actual clean power, and a lot of the regulations are important to make sure that happens. That being said, now in a lot of states, we are we are not able to put any sort of further large demand operations on the grid. So actually here locally, Iowa, our local utility is Mid-American Energy. That's owned by Berkshire Hathaway, famously, owned by Warren Buffett. So basically more money than God. And there was a Meta data center that was planned to be built about 10 minutes away from our office here. 750 megawatt data center, so super sizable. The word from Mid-American is that they're not going to be able to hook that up to the grid for another 3 to 5 years. So while industrial facilities don't typically use as much power as a full-on data center, maybe they're using 20% of that capacity. In order for us to continue to reindustrialize in America and bring heavy manufacturing back to the U.S., we have to figure out a way forward. We have to figure out a way forward to increase power generation capacity. I do have a couple of suggestions for any regulators who may be listening. One of the reasons that China is able to bring on high quality power in their nation is that they do have pre-approved designs that don't. So right now, even if you're building the exact same natural gas power generation facility, you have to go through the entire FERC process. So there is no shortcutting of the regulation. I do think that pre-approved designs that could be deployed at scale across the U.S. could potentially give us a huge dramatic leap forward. I also think that if we don't do that, we're going to be able to probably co-locate a lot of utilities next to heavy users, and they're going to be disconnected from the grid, which ultimately isn't probably the best solution, but is an additional option to just ensure that we can get facilities built, but they wouldn't have redundancy of power coming from the national grid. There's other inputs that I think are just as important and dramatic to the reindustrialization of America. One is labor, another is automation, and when we talk about labor, robots are having their time in the sun. Robots aren't a new thing, especially in industrial facilities. Most robots started back in automotive in the 70s. What I do like to do is I like to bring people back, though, because as we think about the labor that's required to operate these factories of the future, I want to remind people how automation got its start. And if we go back to kind of industrial revolution timeframes and then like the 50s and 60s, all of these machines were actually really driven by camshafts. So one of the trickiest things to do when you're crafting a machine is the timing control. And so all of these machines were operated on a mechanical camshaft that had the timing built into the shaft. And oftentimes the people who designed the machines were the same people who operated the machines, were the same people who fixed the machines. Okay, so that really changed with the advent of the PLC. And as the PLC became more prevalent and allowed for a lot more automation, we kind of dumbed down our workforce. We took this like craftsman level person who was incredibly mechanically brilliant, and we just kind of gave it to a person who knew how to press a button. And the problem is that when you start to separate out the people operating the machinery from the people designing the machinery and the people maintaining the machinery, you can't iterate fast enough on the design to like really improve it. And so,
right.
Yeah, right.
Drew,
right?
Oh man, you got me going now, man. I've never thought of it in that aspect of it, but just yes. I mean, I often do research into the idea of people going into the industries, and manufacturing is not that sexy and stuff, but it's still it's the cornerstone of what industries are, and I've never thought of it in that aspect of it, like, because I often talk about robots aren't new, but they got moving parts, and those moving parts wear over time, and we don't have the the knowledge to how do we fix those things and how do we take care of those things. And I've never thought of it in that manner, that in the past there was a different skill set. And
everyone used to maintain their own cars too, right? So I live in Iowa. John Deere is a local company here. They're headquartered out of Moline, Illinois, just across the river from us. And John Deere famously hired farmers. So, and they would have a program, so it was very common that during harvest time in October, basically no one was in the John Deere offices and the factories would shut down because everyone was out actually, getting their crops. But
seriously,
yeah.
I did not know that. Oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense.
Another Iowa company too, Vermeer Corporation, very similar story. And so all of these companies had this workforce of not just people who were manufacturing and designing the stuff, but also using the equipment. And it really led to a ton of the innovation that you saw happen at John Deere. And by the way, I think productivity per acre has gone up from I want to say 30 bushels of corn a year to 72.
Yeah.
So
I know that. I'm from North Dakota. We measure our bushels.
So there's something magical that happens when you have a higher technical skill set around machinery and around manufacturing. And so what I'm advocating for is that I want manufacturing jobs that are going to pay a lot of money. But it's going to end up actually not costing the manufacturer that much more, because you're going to all of a sudden be able to iterate so much quicker on these designs. Also, by the way, China, I believe, has somewhere in the order of magnitude of either 10x to 100x the number of machinists that we have here in the U.S. And so their deployment of those are much closer to where the manufacturing happens. You have to be in this constant iterative approach in a factory. Another big change of mindset between kind of China and the US has been that usually when the US builds a plant, we design it to kind of work for the next 30 years with minimal changes. I would argue that is no longer the right approach. In China, they have a different mindset. They buy much cheaper equipment. They want it to operate for the next 3 years because they understand that Moore's law dictates that the microprocessors are going to be twice as efficient in 2 years, and so they can do a lot more new things. And so they would rather iterate in 3-year increments. Iterate in 3-year increments than in 30-year increments. But you have to have the technical skill set to be able to do that. And I believe now in a much more, we need the equivalent of the Navy SEAL teams to be able to work on machinery and manufacturing if we really want to compete moving forward.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. And I've struggled with that factor on building more in the U.S. Because it's just China is we have to be more agile on how we're building these factories, and because the idea of a lift and shift is prevalent on that. In fact, I did a little research. It was in the Statistics Labor Union. I mean, the U.S. has lost 4 to 5 million manufacturing jobs over the last since 2000, and you can argue we've added automation, we're producing more, but it's still a cornerstone of our economy, and I think
it needs to be more of a cornerstone, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to produce more real things. We need to have expertise where we're able to take something that has minimal value and transform it into something with really high value. And instead of our economy being based on just pure consumer spending and financial transactions, more Main Street, a little less Wall Street, I think would be probably a positive outcome.
Yeah. So I'm honestly curious, where do you circle around where your research is going? How do you?
So I have a really unique vantage point. So Grace operates across almost every industrial vertical that you can think of, everything from where the stuff comes out of the ground. So petrochem, metals and mining, all of those kind of applications, to all the pulp and paper. So those kind of process industries for materials, all the way to, hey, whether it's aerospace, automotive, consumer packaged goods, pharma, food and bev, water, wastewater, anywhere that's kind of like, we just have a very broad subset. And so I have the ability to kind of travel around and really see what's happening, and benchmark kind of best companies, right? So, we work with some of Elon's companies. That's so interesting. There's a gentleman out in California. I won't say his name, but I was talking to him, and I go, "How do you?" He works at SpaceX, and I go, "How do you guys get so much shit done?" And he's like, "Well, we just stay at the office till it's done." And I go, "Really? Okay. Like, how long are you guys usually there?" "Oh, I don't know, 7 to 10." And then he goes, "Usually, and then if we run into a problem, we just kind of text Elon's chief of staff, and they'll fly a plane to Texas, go pick up a bunch of workers, bring them back to LA for us. And if it's a real technical problem, Elon will just get on the plane and come sit with us, and figure it out, But
he's known for that, yeah.
and I think that Elon's companies do probably iteration better than almost every other company on the planet. I think NVIDIA has the complexity of what NVIDIA has been doing from an iteration perspective is absolutely fascinating. Their new data center racks that they've been doing. I mean, I believe it has more parts than a Boeing 737 in a data center rack. I mean, the level of complexity and how they've been able to refine that through like a constant iterative process, I think really provides a pathway for manufacturers to start thinking, how do we start iterating in 2 and 3 year cycles and constantly being better? So when we look back in 10 years, we're not just 20% better, we're like 10x better. And so I would really encourage anyone listening to this that if you're running a manufacturing environment, think how they do it in software and translate that into the hardware world, and push your finance people to make sure that you start thinking in the long-term game of these iteration cycles.
Outstanding. What advice would you give to young leaders looking into the manufacturing communities?
Yeah. So first of all, it's a great career path. I think it's a rewarding career path. I think that you oftentimes in manufacturing, you have a tangible result. And so if you like seeing kind of the fruits of your labor, I think there's nothing more cool than either designing a product and seeing it come off a production line, or like you've been working on this problem for a while and you make some tweaks and then all of a sudden you solve it, right? It's the feedback loop is fun. The other thing is, if you do have a job already in the manufacturing environment and you're a young leader, you're probably running into labor shortages, and you're not able to attract people into those facilities. A couple of things that make like manufacturing facilities more attractive. First of all, people want areas where they can explore creatively, right? So if you do get into that more iterative approach and allow people to be creative in their processes and thoughts and really put forward ideas and give people autonomy, that's going to go a long way. Second thing is, in manufacturing environments, I've never been at a super productive manufacturing environment around the globe that wasn't clean. So cleanliness is next to godliness, especially in manufacturing environments. So
what do you mean? Was it clean? I mean,
so the best manufacturing environments on the planet are the cleanest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is an old kind of like lean methodology thing, and so if you're in Japan, the cleanliness of everything has a place. Nothing's out of order. Everything is super precise. I think it's so important that you keep these places clean. and people want to work in clean environments. Number three would be if you're trying to attract young labor into the workforce, they don't want to work in a dangerous environment.
Sure.
I know that sounds like super basic. And so, we sell electrical safety devices, and we keep people away from voltage and make electrical and mechanical lockout tagout a lot easier. And so looking for new innovative solutions to take away risk from workers and really reduce risk across the facility gives people a sense that, hey, this company is really looking out for their people. And by the way, the benefits to, there was a stat I read. I think it was like every dollar spent on safety increased productivity, by $4, or there's some sort of return on safety. And so I would really I would push that, and then be innovative, so constantly push the envelope. People don't want to be stagnant. People want growth opportunities. They want to be able to do new things. And so whether that's doing some sort of IIoT, offering and giving people some growth into predicting failures on bearings or whatever, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to better get workforce into manufacturing.
I really 100% agree with you. Wow, great conversation. Great conversation. I think we can open this up for maybe a couple more episodes, because I think you've got a huge wealth of knowledge out there.
I appreciate that.
Is there anything else you'd like to leave the viewers with today?
One thing I am on the search of is, I'm an active kind of investor and advisor in the industrial startup space. I am always looking for the next cool industrial idea. We have a lot of resources to be able to support startup companies in the space. We do have a accelerator program here at Grace in Davenport. If you know people who have cool ideas of in the industrial and manufacturing and data center space, we would love to talk with you. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Drew Allen. Would love to hear it and connect with you guys.
And we'll put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, please do. We can send you the link.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drew, great conversation today. And wow, I might have some more questions for you.
No, we do it again. No problem.
All right. Well, thanks. This is Factory of the Future, and we're out here like finished goods. All right.
Thanks. Have a good one.
This is Factory of the Future, and we are out of here like finished goods. Stay tuned for our next episode of Factory of the Future, where we're exploring groundbreaking techniques and behaviors that are reshaping industrial landscapes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and help others discover the cutting-edge insights transforming manufacturing as we know it.